Have you ever made a split-second decision that changed your life forever? One that didn't feel monumental in the moment, but unfolded into something far bigger than you could ever imagine. For Sophia Hayes, that moment came on a rainy night in New York City, the kind of downpour that seems to wash the whole city in melancholy. She was just trying to get home from another grueling double shift at the diner. Her uniform clung to her skin, soaked through. Her shoes squished with every step. No buses were running, her phone was dead, and all she could think about was collapsing onto her thin mattress in her one-room apartment. She wasn't looking for help or hope or love, just warmth. Daniel Bennett, on the other hand, had everything money could buy except peace. That same night across town, he had just left a black-tie gala thrown in his honor, the kind where billionaires shook hands they didn't want to shake and toasted deals they didn't believe in. Daniel, heir to the Bennett empire and CEO of one of the country's most powerful corporations, had grown up with expectations carved into stone. He was getting married in a month to Ava Mitchell, daughter of an influential financier. Their union was less about romance and more about real estate, economic, social, political. It was a merger in the form of matrimony. He left the gala without telling anyone. No chauffeur, no umbrella, just the rain and a restless urge to feel like a real person again. And then fate did what fate does best. It threw them together. They collided at a crosswalk. Her umbrella flipped inside out. His phone slipped from his pocket into a puddle. Their eyes met briefly, curiously. She mumbled an apology. He said nothing, just studied her face for a long second, longer than necessary. And then he did something wildly uncharacteristic. He took off his expensive wool coat and draped it over her shoulders. Sophia hesitated, clutching it with uncertain fingers. "You don't have to." "I know," he replied. They ended up in a hotel lobby minutes later, half out of necessity, half out of inertia. The clerk didn't question why a drenched man in a tuxedo and a tired woman in a diner uniform were together. The silence between them was oddly comfortable. In the quiet warmth of the hotel room, with rain tapping the windows, they barely spoke. There was no seduction, no grand gesture. Just two people with nothing left to prove, sharing one night of fragile humanity. The next morning, Sophia was gone before sunrise. She left behind the coat folded, dried, and carefully placed on the back of the chair. Weeks passed. Sophia went back to her routine, serving ungrateful customers, counting tips, skipping meals. But something wasn't right. She was nauseated all the time, and her body felt foreign. The test confirmed what her instincts had already told her. She was pregnant. Now pregnancy in any circumstance can be life-altering. But for Sophia, it was terrifying. No partner, no savings, no parents to call. Just her, a positive test, and the realization that the child growing inside her shared DNA with a man she barely knew, one who was about to marry someone else. She thought about reaching out to Daniel. But what would she say? That night meant something to her, but did it to him? He probably didn't even remember her name. So she made a decision. She would keep the baby alone. Every day became a test of endurance. She worked until her legs gave out. Her coworkers noticed she was paler, quieter, slower. One afternoon, while carrying a tray of dishes, her vision blurred. She stumbled into the kitchen, clutched the counter for balance, and collapsed. The hospital lights were harsh. The beeping was relentless. Sophia woke to find herself surrounded by concerns she didn't ask for. Her manager had called emergency services. Her friend Emily held her hand. The doctor was blunt, severe exhaustion, malnutrition, early pregnancy complications. And then there was Daniel. He stood by the doorway like a man seeing a ghost. For a moment, Sophia thought she was dreaming. Then he stepped forward and asked quietly, "Why didn't you tell me?" She said nothing. "You're carrying my child," he said again more firmly, not with anger but disbelief, and under that fear. She finally spoke. "You're getting married. That has nothing to do with this." Sophia turned her face to the wall. "I don't want your pity. I'm not here to ruin your life. I'm keeping the baby. You don't have to do anything." But Daniel couldn't walk away. For days he returned first with questions, then with silence, eventually with an offer. A place to stay, financial support. She refused them all, until one day she opened her apartment door to find him waiting on the steps soaked from another rainstorm, holding a bag of groceries. Not extravagant things, just essentials: rice, milk, prenatal vitamins. "You keep coming back," she said. He shrugged. "I don't know how to do this, but I want to try." Sophia let him in. Not into her home, into her life. Slowly, cautiously. There were no grand reconciliations, just shared errands. Doctor's appointments where he waited outside the room, walks to the pharmacy. He never overstepped, but he didn't disappear either. She still wouldn't take his money, but she didn't stop him from carrying heavy bags or making sure she had enough iron in her meals. There was an awkwardness in how he tried, but it wasn't performative. It was genuine, clumsy but real. Meanwhile, the wedding loomed. Invitations had been sent, venues booked, dresses fitted. Ava Mitchell, icy and poised, knew something was off. She built her life on reading men like ledgers. Daniel was distracted and distant. One afternoon, she confronted him during a cake tasting. "You're not with me," she said flatly. Daniel didn't deny it. She stared at him for a long moment. "Who is she?" He didn't say Sophia's name, but the silence was enough. Ava closed the binder of floral arrangements. "You'll regret this," she said, not with emotion, but calculation. "I already regret a lot of things," he replied. 3 days before the wedding, Daniel sat in his office staring at a photo of his late mother. He remembered how she used to say that money only solves problems you can count. Everything else, love, loneliness, purpose, was up to you. That night he didn't sleep. He wrote a letter. He didn't send it. The morning of the wedding arrived. Guests arrived in black cars. Strings played Mozart in the courtyard of the estate. Ava's gown shimmered under soft lighting. But Daniel's heart was elsewhere. When the officiant called for him, he didn't come. He was already gone. Instead, he was standing at the door of a small clinic downtown, the kind that didn't cater to wealthy executives. He didn't wear a tux, just jeans, a wrinkled shirt, and nerves raw enough to show. He asked for Sophia at the desk. The nurse looked at him curiously and gestured down the hall. She was sitting in a chair by the window reading a pamphlet on prenatal care. She looked up when she heard footsteps. Her eyes widened. She didn't stand. "You missed your wedding," she said. "I didn't miss it," Daniel replied. "I left it." Silence. Sophia stared at him for a long moment. "Why I couldn't promise forever to someone while thinking about someone else. And what do you want from me?" she asked softly. "Time. A chance. Maybe forgiveness." He swallowed. "But mostly, I want to be a father. A real one. Not one who shows up in a press release. One who holds their kid at night and forgets to shave on Saturdays." She looked away. Her hand went to her belly, protective and unsure. "Then start now," she said. "But don't make promises you can't keep." Daniel nodded. He sat next to her, said nothing, just sat. The media went into a frenzy. Ava Mitchell released a statement that was diplomatic but cold. Daniel didn't respond to interviews. He withdrew from 3 major deals, spent his days in quieter meetings. When asked by the board what happened, he said simply, "I reprioritized." Sophia didn't move in with him. She kept her apartment, but they saw each other more. He learned how to boil rice without burning it. She learned to trust that he wasn't just passing through. At the baby's first ultrasound, Daniel cried. When the baby kicked for the first time, Sophia took his hand and placed it gently on her stomach. He froze, then smiled. It was a different smile than before. Not smug, not practiced, just real. Months later, in the same park where they had once walked silently beside each other, Daniel got down on one knee. No flash mob, no cameras, just a simple ring. I know I did everything backward, he said, but I'd rather walk through this chaos with you than pretend to be perfect with someone else. Sophia said yes, not because it was a fairy tale, but because she had seen him try over and over. And trying honestly, consistently, imperfectly mattered. Their life was messy. The baby cried at odd hours, dishes piled up. Some days were filled with laughter, some with exhaustion. But there was love, the kind you build, not stumble into, the kind you choose. And maybe that's what this story is really about. Not romance in the rain, not billionaire meets waitress, but two people broken in different ways who decided not to run, who stayed, who grew. Because love isn't about the night you meet, it's about the mornings after, the ones where you show up even when it's hard. And maybe that's a story worth telling. Years passed, not without trials, not without heartbreak. There were arguments about money, about childcare, about trust. But unlike before, Daniel didn't retreat into silence. He listened, he learned, he tried. Sophia didn't give up on her own dreams either. She enrolled in night classes, slowly earning credits toward a degree in nutrition. Daniel helped, not with money, she still refused that, but by watching the baby when she had class, by showing up to pick her up even when she said he didn't need to. He changed in ways that weren't flashy. He stopped checking emails during dinner. He kept a Polaroid of the three of them in his wallet. He learned how to make Sophia's favorite tea just the way she liked it. 2 bags, a splash of oat milk, no sugar. Their child, a daughter named Elise, grew up never knowing the tension that once hung between her parents. To her, they were just mom and dad, slightly chaotic, often laughing, sometimes exhausted, but always present. Sophia published a blog that turned into a book, stories about resilience, working motherhood, love after betrayal. It became a quiet bestseller translated into 3 languages. People around the world resonated not with her suffering, but with her strength. Daniel scaled back from the company. He trained a leadership team and stepped into a consulting role. He built a startup focused on affordable housing and maternal health care because he never forgot where Sophia had come from or how close she'd been to slipping through the cracks. They didn't live in a mansion. They bought a modest townhouse with a backyard where Elise could dig in the dirt, and where Daniel once built her a crooked but charming treehouse. They had dinner together every night, even if it was takeout. They celebrated small wins, a clean bill of health, a passed exam, a good week at school. They weren't perfect, but they were present. And isn't that what we're all really chasing? Not fantasy, not fireworks, but real love. The kind that grows in quiet moments, that forgives, that adapts, that endures. So if you've ever felt like your story didn't follow the right order, if you've messed up, made wrong turns, or found love in the middle of chaos, remember this: some of the best stories aren't neat. They're raw, they're hard-earned, they're real, and they're absolutely worth telling. Please share this story with your friends and family and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more meaningful stories.